Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we got for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, which is set to release on both the Nintendo Switch and on PC on June 30th. And today we're going to be checking out the third wave of brand new Silkbind / Switch skill attacks that Capcom decided to showcase for the Gun Lance, the Charged Blade, and of course the Bow. And alongside the reveal of these brand new skills, we also get a brand new look at some really cool armors and specifically some really cool and awesome looking weapons to match the armors as well. So first and foremost, we're going to start with the Gun Lance, where we actually get a first glance of course, Magma Allmother. This is of course the first brand new such species being added into Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. We now finally get to officially check out their armor in the master rank setting. Remember that there are no high rank or low rank armors for these new monsters. So the first Silkbind attack that they decided to showcase for the Gun Lance is of course Bullet Barrage. It says that you blast, dash in close, and suddenly unleash everything with abandon. So you do actually have to charge it up a little bit. It seems like the hunter kind of staples it down into the ground. You do have the steam coming out in every which direction, and then of course as you're kind of loading up all your shots, you are then sending out your wire dash forward. You send yourself flying, fling yourself forward directly into whatever the monster is going to be, and then of course you can unleash your attack. Then when they decide to showcase kind of like the combo attacks, they do showcase a ground splitter, which is a wind-up attack typically with the Gun Lance. Then they do the switch skill, and then they show you the Bullet Barrage, which is again just slinging yourself forward, giving that everything you got, and just kind of repositioning yourself once again as you're stepping backwards. The second combo that they decided to showcase is interesting because you have the Worm Strike cannon, and then it changes to the Erupting cannon. So you have a big blast with a upward slash, then you do the switch skill swap, you kind of reload your ammo again, and then you just let out another burst, triple, fourth, like almost 4 different attacks almost connected all together. And it's really interesting to see just kind of how quickly the Gun Lance is able to dish out attacks and at the same time reposition each and every single one of those strikes. So you're not going to be really locked into a specific animation or a position. If the monster continuously to diagonally move, you're going to be able to kind of just continually reposition with the monster. Obviously, if it kind of goes behind you, you're kind of, stuck in that situation. But if it continues to move horizontally across the screen from you, you are definitely going to be able to handle it and never really be in a bad situation where you're still going to hit it. You might not hit it in the most optimal spot that you want, but you're definitely going to be able to take care of it with ease. Now, moving over to the Bow, of course, this is Capcom's kind of darling weapon in Monster Hunter Rise. This has been kind of like the most broken weapon essentially since they've decided to kind of like leave cancel framing into the game without really having to actually address it. We'll have to wait and see if they're going to address it in this way and maybe supplement some of that with new Silkbind attacks. But the first one that we do get to see here, and of course you do get to see the hunter wearing Master Rank Shogun Senator armor, so which is something that we've already seen once before when the armor was originally revealed for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. The first Silkbind attack that they do showcase, however, is called Butcher's Bind. It says that it fires an arrow loaded with iron silk. If a follow-up arrow hits the same spot, it inflicts severing damage. So you're basically going to have a first kind of like shot, if you will, then you leave a Silkbind stuck to the monster that is tethered directly to you, and then you immediately follow that up with a second shot that seems to be way more powerful than the first. Now the interesting thing is that when they showcase the combo attacks, they show that the Butcher's Bind, you fling in the first one, and then before you get to do your second attack, you switch skill swap into an aerial aim. That leaves you basically in the situation where you are not longer stuck having to fire that second shot from the ground. Instead, you can fling yourself upward with the aerial aim and automatically have an aerial shot that will most likely do more higher damage through piercing damage, I believe is what we read that the aerial aim is. So you're going to have a different way to be able to handle the same attack, but the second shot is going to be more powerful, and you can kind of mess around and switch that around depending on the situation as well. The funny thing is, however, they do showcase a second switch skill attack, but you most likely missed it because it was so quick. and that's because they basically kind of showcase that is a little bit meaningless. First they showcase a melee attack, then they switch skill into an attack called stake thrust, and basically what you do is that this is like close range combat. The melee attack is basically when the hunter kind of grabs an arrow and swings at it pretty close, and then the stake thrust is basically just a pokey poke forward. You do the melee attack, you kind of switch skill, and then you do another poke with this brand new silkbind attack called stake thrust, which seems to be kind of extremely situational and easily the most worthless silkbind attack I have seen being showcased in any of these attacks. So much so that they don't even actually close the video with it. They just kind of switch back to the butcher's bind and aerial bind combination we just spoke up a second ago. So they just really kind of just showcase that even in like a real situation, which they weren't even attacking a monster with it, it's just kind of pointless. Now, of course, the last weapon that they went ahead and showcased this time around is, of course, the charge blade, and you are going to notice that the hunter is wearing Magnum Aloe Master Rank armor. This was one of the ones that we did get a closer look at this armor set once before in a very short image. They might have even showcased it in one of those hunting clips, but the hunter was like not the one focused, so it was kind of like another hunter with the Magnum Aloe armor, but now we actually do get to see it fully showcased in this specific situation with the charge blade silkbind attacks. So the first one that they do showcase is called Ready Stance. It says it's a silkbind maneuver that binds the sword and axe together with iron silk, and this is another one of those parry attacks that they seem to be focusing a whole heck of a lot of energy on, where you're basically are waiting for the monster to kind of attack you, and then you are able to just kind of like dish out a set of combinations. So you have the hunter kind of putting up the shield and the sword at the very same time, kind of like waiting for it to be attacked, still kind of like holding up a defense, and then the monster would just kind of attack you. Then you kind of unleash a set of combos, which finishes with the axe kind of like charged up all together, and then you do a big uppercut, kind of like massive attack. Then you reset your positioning and go about the same situation. So it is interesting that they're choosing to go that route. In the same way, when they show the combination attacks, they show you the counter peak performance, then they switch skill into the ready stance, and it's just kind of like double ultimate, you know, parrying defense damage, if you will. Just continually waiting for the attacks and onslaught of a monster with the counter peak performance, which is just another one of those parries that was originally there for the charge blade. And then you have the ready stance, which is going to be a continuation of that. So if a monster is onslaught attacking you, you have two ways to parry it pretty easily right out of the gate. Now, sadly, the other new skill that they showcase is called File Follow-Up Firing Pin, and it kind of falls into that same category of the one with the bow we just went over a couple of minutes ago, where it's just kind of like extremely situational, and it's not really going to be all that beneficial because they showcase the File Follow-Up. This is going to be basically a basic kind of attack that just leaves a little bit of like elemental damage on a specific monster, and then what you choose to do with the File Follow-Up after you do a switch skill swap is that you can do this axe charge attack and kind of like blow up the elemental damage that you kind of left stuck in a monster. So it's going to be definitely one of those where, you know, in the situational stance is going to be pretty good, but most of the time really going to be just not all that beneficial to you. They continue with the kind of like combination attacks. They show us both of those parries once again, and it just kind of showcases that the developers wanted to give the charge blade more defensive capabilities, even though realistically I think it needed more damage. Instead of focusing on waiting for a monster to attack you so you can dish out more damage to it, I'm not necessarily sure if that's really going to work at the end of the day, but ultimately Capcom are the ones who make these decisions. So with all these new switch skill attacks, we're now up to 10 weapons altogether. There's only 4 more weapons that we're still missing to be able to see more information on. presumably by Monday we should be able to have the rest of the weapons showcased, and then we should be able to be free finally from this slow drip of information that Capcom is giving us regarding the switch skill attacks. I'm not necessarily a big fan in the way that they decided to handle it, dropping everything kind of like at burst. I think it would have been just better to kind of drop everything all together and then let everyone just get a first glimpse information on everything instead of just kind of them trickling it out. I'm not a big fan of that, but at the end of the day, we know how Capcom works, and they just like to drip feed information, kind of like Nintendo. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.